my first time using the bell, so it's good.
We're away.
Like that better than a galley, right?
We've been doing this downtown. This is my first time using the bell. It's trial and error.
You want to try it one more time, Mr. Chairman?
That's better.
I know he likes that.
Perfect. We'll be good next time. All right, I'm calling this meeting of the Manatee County Port Authority to order. We will start as we do all of our meetings with the invocation and the pledge. I do not have a list of anyone doing either, so we will start with the invocation from Port Member James Satcher, and we do have a chaplain. It's not on my agenda.
Walker House.
Thank goodness. Okay. If you're able, please rise.
Good morning, commissioners and everyone else. Let's bow. Father God, we thank you so much that we can come before your throne of grace. Lord, this morning I'm thinking of the events in Syria and Turkey. Lord, all the people that were lost, but you continue to show miracles that people are being saved in the rubble, and we thank you for that. Lord, as this meeting convenes, we ask for your presence in this room. We ask for your wisdom to be upon the commissioners, the tenants, the port staff, as they look to the future of the port. Lord, we ask that your will be done here. We ask that your safety be upon everyone that comes and goes in this port, especially our seafarers, our truckers, and the port community. Lord, just open up the hearts and the minds of those in this meeting to do business for the port, but also to do your business. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In my defense of a flag right there.
Oh, it's up there. Flag over there, too. I was wondering why you were standing there.
And then I was like,
All right, and as we do while we're here at the port, we always open it up for audience introductions. Do we have a microphone for that?
Mark Evans, Products.
Dave Sanford, Port Staff.
Jennifer Cowan, Port Council.
Denise Stuffelbeam, Port Staff.
Virginia Zimmerman, Port Staff.
Charlie Hunsaker, Manatee County Natural Resources Department.
Dustin Peebles, Manatee County Clerk's Office.
Denise Tuck, Del Monte.
David St. Pierre, Port Staff.
Sean Smith, Port Staff.
Sean.
Pam Wingo, Port Staff.
Amanda Tyner, FDOT.
Abby Lindecamp, Port Staff.
Dan Fitzpatrick, Port Staff.
Mark Meyer, Port Manatee Railroad.
Malcolm Edwards, Port Staff.
Philip Erblund, SNME. Mark Stout, Fortress.
Robert Blazer, World Direct Shipping.
Daniel Blazer, World Direct Shipping.
Andre Dubois, Logistec USA.
Matt McPhail, FMT.
Louis St. Cyr, FMT.
Luke Quapple, FMT.
Trish Alligood, Port Chaplain.
Tim Dolan, AR Savage and Son.
Billy Savage, AR Savage and Son.
Norman Atkins, Marine Towing, tug provider here at beautiful Port Manatee.
Yay.
Art Rudolph, Kinder Morgan.
Ryan O'Neill, Kinder Morgan.
Rod Palmer, Kinder Morgan.
We have fun here.
All right, thank you very much. And before we get going, are there any public comments? I don't have any cards or anyone signed up. Seeing none, we will close public comment and we will get started. And as Carlos and I discussed, we wanted to come out here at least once a quarter. It's great having it downtown. It's nice and convenient, but a lot of what we do here at the port transcends not just what the port is, but also what our great partners are. So today we have two presentations from two of our strongest, most important partners here, both Air Products and World Direct Shipping. I believe it helps the entire Port Authority and the public as a whole see exactly how much of an economic generator this port is and the direction that we're going. So with that, I will turn it over to the Director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and welcome back to the port. As you can tell, we're happy to see you here. Our customers are here. Some of our largest customers will be speaking here. And it's great to have you, at least, as the Chairman said, once every 3 months or so, to re-engage you and the shipping community with the board, essentially a board of directors, more than a board of commissioners, that run a private, essentially, business. We don't get money from other sources, and as Dave Sanford likes to say, we eat what we kill, and other ports are trying to, eat our lunch, breakfast, and dinner. So we're actively pursuing that business, and the port contributes, significantly through the taxation of some of our users towards the coffers of the county anyway. And they're a high-level employer without using tax dollars to pay for those people. So it's a real win-win, and it's a huge economic engine for the county and the surrounding areas. Increasingly, we're having a broader impact. The port is having a large impact on counties north and south of us, including with gas deliveries, fruit deliveries, everything you can think of, lumber, steel. We're having a huge regional impact. Just as a matter of a little housekeeping, we've added a new app to your board. We have this now. We don't have, as you do downtown, the board where you put in, you want to talk. So on here, this one was completed, and you can then utilize it as you see fit. Additionally, you have your business cards in front of you. Here, your board members and your Port Authority commissioners. So thank you for that. As the chairman said, without any further delay, I want to bring up Mark Evans from Air Products. As you know, Air Products came here around 2009, 10, Mark? No, when you started, when you finished the facility. But the plan was to locate, to identify, for those of you who are not already familiar, a location outside of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, right? PA, way away far from here. And Mark will tell you more about this, how it's going. And so they did a national search to identify facilities for what we call export-related manufacturing, which if you talk to the Commerce Department, that's the best thing you can do in this country. Export-related manufacturing. And if it's near a port, even better. And that's the perfect example that we use as a poster child for the benefits of export-related manufacturing. And Mark really, again, is doing that in spades. So, Mark, you have to come up.
Thank you, sir. So, as everybody did, I dug out slides from the last time I did a presentation here, and it was October 21, which surprised me a little bit. So, a lot of new faces on the board, a lot of old faces on the board. Well, not a few old faces on the board, but definitely a few established, should I say then, Kevin.
Come on, Mark, be kind.
Please don't be. So I've tried to change the presentation a little bit, make it a little bit more recent. But I'm going to start off as I did last time. For those who don't know, just a little bit about Air Products, and who Air Products are as a company. So we're an industrial gas company. If you want to buy stock, the ticker is APD. But we're a global company in over 50 countries. Generally, we started providing industrial gas, so oxygen, nitrogen, argon. That was the core business to start. Then we went into chemicals. Then we diversified the chemicals, and we've gone back into gas as our core business. But where we have expanded now is we've gone more into the energy business as such. We're becoming more of an energy company. But as I say, over 21,000 employees worldwide. We've been in business over 80 years. We're headquartered in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And down here in Port Manatee, we've got at the moment 300 employees. So the goal of the company is to become the safest, most diverse, most profitable industrial gas company in the world, providing excellent service to our customers. And our higher purpose, which is our CEO always reminds us of, is that we're bringing people together to collaborate and innovate solutions to the world's most significant energy and environmental sustainability challenges. And I will touch on how our facility across the road contributes to that too. So hydrogen is a big topic on anybody's lips at the moment. That's the energy of the future. That's the clean energy of the future. Air Products, for those who don't know, are the biggest producer of hydrogen in the world at the moment. But that hydrogen is known as grey hydrogen. There's a lot of non-environmentally friendly aspects to how that's produced at the moment. But we're also investing very heavily in projects around the world in blue hydrogen and green hydrogen. So in blue hydrogen, the carbon emissions are greatly reduced. And then we get to green hydrogen. We've got a very large project in Saudi Arabia. We've got one in New York State, and we've got one in Texas at the moment, which will basically produce hydrogen with zero emissions. So it's using solar energy, wind energy to produce the electric. It's using water, which is a natural product, and from that we can produce hydrogen. Hydrogen will be shipped around the world as ammonia. So that's kind of where the company's going at the moment. Big investment, major investments in that. But in the meantime, natural gas is seen as a transition fuel. It's the cleanest of the fossil fuels, and as a result of that, a lot of countries are using gas as an interim between fueling by coal to eventually get into hydrogen. So we've been a leader in producing LNG equipment. We shipped our first piece of equipment from Pennsylvania in 1967. We've produced over 120 heat exchangers since then, and 20 of those heat exchangers now have come out of Port Manatee. As Carlos mentioned, we came down here because of the location. You can see one of the pictures there of a heat exchanger coming out of Wilkes-Barre on a rail car. So we used to have a 5-day rail trip from Pennsylvania to a port just north of Philadelphia, and obviously that rail shipment is constrained. The equipment was getting bigger, so we needed a new facility, and we needed a facility near a port, which is why we're here. So why do they liquefy natural gas? Just a very quick lesson. So we all use gas, but we use it in its gaseous form, either on our grills, for our heating, but to ship it around the world, they liquefy it because it becomes 1/600th of its volume in its liquid form. So what happens is it gets liquefied, it gets transported around the world, then they regasify it, and it goes into our pipelines. Traditionally, we exported all of our coal and exchangers. Till about 2015, everything was exported because America itself did not export any gas. It was an import country. But in recent years, a lot of those import terminals have been turned to export terminals. So a lot of our equipment is now in the Gulf Coast, up in Maryland, and in different areas in the US as well. So the heat exchangers that we build is the equipment that actually turns the gas to liquid. It's kind of the center of the process. And we try and claim that more than 70% of liquefied natural gas that ships around the world is going through our equipment somewhere in the world. So I think you all know what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. And that's had an effect on us because Russia shut off the pipeline to Europe. a lot of Europe and other countries that Russia were providing are now looking for alternative sources for gas. So they're looking to the likes of the US, Qatar, Australia, Algeria, Nigeria for their gas now. And so, again, to ship the gas, it needs to be liquefied. So all those countries that have got gas at the moment have now got an abundance of demand, more demand than what they've got supply. So we're seeing an uptick in the demand for our equipment, which is good news from us, but from unfortunate circumstances, obviously. So, Port Manatee at a glance. That's us. We're due east of here. We've got 37 acres now of land. We purchased 4.7 acres a few years ago. We were going to put a warehouse on it, but we're now rethinking that. We think we're going to need some more manufacturing space as well. So we're going through that process at the moment of how we're going to utilize it best. Then we'll have to go through obviously the planning and permitting issues. Well, not issues, actually, just the process. We've got 7 buildings over there, 330,000 square feet of manufacturing space. We employ, as I said, 300 people. 200 of them, or 220 now, are production technicians. So a lot of manual skilled labor over there. As I say, the port is exactly 1 mile west. So we ship out of this gate and basically go straight down South Dockside Road. We've got a process development unit which we added in 2019, so we're doing R&D work on there as well. And it's very exciting times for the facility. So expansion is a big part of what we're dealing with at the moment. We see a large workload ahead of us, and it's how are we going to get ahead of that and make sure that we don't have to turn away work because we've got capacity. So that's an aerial view of us and our relationship with the port. Berths 8, 9, 12 and 14 are our favourites. Berth 8 is the Ro-Ro, so a lot of the exchanges that we've shipped to the US Gulf Coast have gone through Berth 8. 12 and 14 we've used for overseas shipments, and even 9 since the Rio haul as well we've been using. So, since I was last here, we've shipped 4 exchanges to the US Gulf Coast. We've shipped 3 exchanges to Algeria, 2 to Qatar, 2 to Mexico, and we've got 2 on a floating plant situated just off Mozambique. It actually went to a shipyard in Korea to be put on the floating plant, which now is operating just off Mozambique. We've hired 71 employees since we were last here, and we're still hiring. 81 employees, my maths, I didn't correct the slide, 81 employees, 76 production technicians, 2 warehouse technicians, 2 maintenance personnel. More important to me, we've also promoted 8 technicians to staff positions. So we've got technicians that have become production planners, that have become quality inspectors, that have become buyers. So, we want to encourage growth within the company. I've been with the company 41 years now. I started as an apprentice in the UK, and I want that pathway to be for everybody in our facility as well, that if they've got the desire, that they can develop. So when we do hire people, we tell them we're offering them a career, not a job, and and that's what we want to do. Couple of pictures just to see, just to back up what I just said. So this was February 2022, a exchanger going to the Gulf Coast. Another one going to the Gulf Coast. We actually sent 3 to the same site. That one going to Algeria, and it's a pretty impressive site going across the road, and I can assure everybody, and I think heard F. Dot were here today, we close the road for about 5 minutes, that's all. It's a pretty slick process we've got. As opposed to 5 days in Pennsylvania, we can get to the berth in 35 minutes, unless the railroad holds us up for an hour, and then it's an hour and 35 minutes. Gulf Coast, Algeria. So here's 2 exchanges for Mexico being loaded. 2 for Qatar, going up South Dockside Road. We've got another 2 we actually completed earlier this week, ready to be shipped. Identical to them. Another one for Algeria. So we're in Algeria. It's an interesting story because we're actually replacing exchanges that we provided to them in 1968.
Wow.
You know, we've got a good reputation in the industry for our equipment lasting. You know, and I can assure you that the only reason they're replacing them because they were misused rather than the structural integrity of them. But we're seeing that as a big business now. As I say, we've been making them since 1967. There's a lot of very old plants out there. We've just replaced one in Malaysia. We've got another order to replace one in Malaysia. So it's pretty good. And you know, we try and keep the port busy. Malcolm's asking me every day, what you got this year, what you got this year, and I try and forecast it. But our customers aren't quite as efficient as us, so we tend to finish on time, but their sites aren't ready for us. But this year, we've already shipped 1 exchange to Algeria. I just mentioned we've got 2 ready to ship to Qatar. We've got 2 cold boxes we're going to ship out to Qatar or China. The two completed ones to Qatar, 2 frames to China, another one to Algeria, and then August is going to be a busy month, hopefully. We've got 3 heat exchangers to Qatar and 1 to Nigeria. The second unit to Nigeria and 1 to China. It's going to go to China, it's going to operate in Canada. It's a very interesting story, that one. So we're going to send an heat exchanger to China, it's going to be put in a module, and then it's going to be shipped to Canada to actually be used. So we're very busy. As I say, workload going forward, even busier. So we're constantly hiring. We've got another 15, I believe, starting on Monday. We tend to hire every 2 weeks, and that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. So my challenges, attracting and retaining skilled people, always. It's not unique to us. You know, we see ourselves as a premier employer. We think we pay pretty generously for the area, but it's still a challenge to keep people. You know, and some of the reasons we hear for people leaving is the commute. You know, we're in a pretty remote place. You know, we are growing lots of houses around us, so that might come in handy, but it's still a challenge. Cost of living in the area is, everybody knows about that one, and affordable housing, especially for the technician population. Training is and always will be a challenge for us. You know, even when we get skilled welders in, we have to teach them to weld what we weld, because we're welding aluminum, we're welding stainless steel, we're welding aluminum up to 3 inches. So wherever they're coming from, it's a different skill base. And then we've got our coil wound process, which is unique to us. No one else in the world is doing anything similar. Again, we can take anybody and train them to do that, which is good. And we do that, and we've been very successful in hiring people, teaching them to do our coil wound process, and then even teaching them to weld after that as well. So a big emphasis over there at the moment is training. Identifying land for further expansion. We're going through that process at the moment. You know, obviously we'd like something local, and I have to justify to my board of directors why I stay local. You know, there's always different trains of thought. You know, do we choose a different location just in case we get flooded here, or we get a hurricane here, but there's a lot of merit to keeping the whole operation local as well, which is what we're trying to do. So, as I say, we bought 5 acres just north of Inland Transport Street. We're going to develop that, but we're also looking for more surrounding land as well. And there is one other challenge, which I was told just as I was walking out the door. Don't forget to mention the junction on Inland Transport Street and US 41, because I think I mentioned it in October 41. We would really like to see some traffic lights there. Whoever's here from FDOT.
Okay.
It's getting very dangerous, and I hate to see somebody get injured. Obviously, the port's getting busier. We're getting busier. There's other businesses behind us getting busier now, and it's a very busy junction, and traffic fairly hurtles up there. So that's my quick update today. I say thanks for the opportunity, and I'm open to any questions from anybody.
Mr. Ron?
Thank you, Mark, for your presentation this morning. It's really informational. 2 questions. One, what's your stock symbol again?
APD.
APD, okay. Thank you. And then on the exchangers, how long is the build time on one of those massive exchangers you just showed us?
Good question. We tend to say the average is about 32 months. But the smallest ones we build, we can build in about 13 months. The largest ones we build are sometimes 36, 38 months. So when we first opened the facility up, we started production in 2014. We didn't ship our first exchanger till I think it was October 2016. So that was interesting for all the new people, because you can go over there now and you can see an exchanger in all different stages of manufacture. But when we started up, you basically had to wait 2 years to experience that as such. So.
Thank you, Mark, for an amazing presentation. Air Products seems like an amazing company. My question is, what's your projected growth as far as employees go in the next 10 years? And I know that you stated that you guys are having problems maybe finding welders or what. Have you guys collaborated with maybe MTC?
Yeah,
That was my question.
yeah. We work with all the local colleges. So when I first moved down here in 2014, I think there was 28 people in the MTC welding program. We actually used MTC's facilities to train our welders when we first got here before we were even up and running. And we've had a great collaboration with MTC ever since. Their welding program now is sold out on afternoons, days also. So yeah, we've got a good relationship with them. We're obviously on their advisory board. We get people from there, but we get people from Irwin up in Tampa, from HCC. We work with all the local technical colleges. But yeah, MCC is the one that we're kind of closest with, and we help fund the most.
Oh, wonderful. And as far as maybe you stated you possibly might be looking for more manufacturing space. What would be ideal as far as the acreage goes, and where would that be located, you believe?
We're looking at a couple of scenarios. Obviously, there's a plot of land north of us which we're very interested in. So we're in communications over that. That's adjacent to the 5 acres we've already bought. How much depends on how our workload develops. We've got potential to duplicate that factory. There's that much work out there. And it's not as far as 10 years away. It's 3 years away.
Okay.
So we're working with some major oil companies now, discussing some pretty big orders, and they could be game changers for us for sure. So.
And this is considered, I would assume, maybe somebody knows the answer to this, heavy manufacturing?
I think we're medium.
Medium manufacturing?
Okay. Currently we're medium, yeah.
Okay.
You see the equipment is pretty heavy, but I don't. That's nothing to do with how you grade it.
I don't think that's where the term comes from.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bond?
Well, I got to tell you, we've got some great new commissioners. He asked every question I was going to ask, Mark, about MTC and so forth.
You've asked them all before, Vanessa.
I know I have, but I didn't know if you were still working with them, so that's why I was curious. just want to say, I think to all the new commissioners that haven't experienced one of those crossing 41 and coming over to the port, you should try and schedule being here when it happens. It's amazing to see. It really is.
I think this year we'll be shipping our 25th, so we might try and make a bigger deal of that one and let everybody know. So we're definitely going to celebrate it at the facility, but we might let more people know. So
yeah, thank you.
That'd be good.
Yeah, Air Products has been a great partner to the port, and we were very fortunate to bring them in here to our port. So, anyway, Mark, it's good to see you, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to finish saying, the success of the port is very important to us as well. So the fact that the port is thriving, the port is growing, is reassuring for us as well as somebody who needs it. So.
Commissioner Van Elsenberg.
Thank you, sir. So, to the new commissioners, I know you've heard this before, but immediately they ask about MTC, and this is an example of how the port itself impacts lives of residents in Manatee County. And so a good friend of mine, his stepson, he was a good kid. He graduated high school and he went right to MTC and started welding class. He ended up being hired, met Air Products at MTC because they were involved in the class. He was hired right out of there. The kid was like 19 years old, making $90,000 a year, flying to Malaysia and all over the world. And since then, Shane has gotten a promotion with you guys, and he's a supervisor for you.
He's a quality inspector, actually.
Okay, there you go.
He's
quality
learning
inspector.
NDT techniques like radiography, ultrasonic.
And he's like 25. I mean, yeah, he's rocking it, and he loves being at Air Products. And that's just one kid that I know. So, there is a good connection there, and it's a good example of how the port is creating great jobs, great paying jobs, and opportunities for local kids. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Well, Mark, thank you very much for coming here and updating us. I mean, you're a great example of what we're hoping to do here in the port. It's a combination between the county, the port, our education, and bringing in private industry. It's important to Manatee County. It's important to diversifying our economy. Obviously, we have a lot more import than export coming in. Hopefully that starts to change. We start taking advantage of the ships coming into the port, and you're a perfect example of it. So thank you very much for everything you're doing for the citizens of Manatee County, our economy, and congratulations on your growth and your future growth. Director?
Thank you. Now we have our second presenter, which is which is World Direct Shipping. World Direct Shipping came here a few years ago and looked at Seaport Manatee as a way to circumvent the trucking that they were doing from Mexico and some of their produce to essentially to Georgia, where their market is, and they'll expand upon that. So they were the only, to my knowledge, company, certainly in the US, that has ever gone into the shipping business wholeheartedly and has been so successful that I think they're becoming a model for all the shipping lines out there that should be expanding and don't have the courage to do that. And a family-owned business, that has been extremely successful, and also in the recent, and you'll hear more about this from Daniel Blazer and Robert Blazer also, who are here, probably the largest land tract purchaser in many, many years for port-related, across the street right by Mark's facility there, about 440 acres in one batch, in one track. That's unheard of, including, of course, the Manatee Airport, which you'll hear about a little bit. So I want to bring in Dan Blazer. Daniel, here you go. Daniel flies his own plane down here, but he doesn't have the Manatee Airport yet because they need a hard surface, but he's working on it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This time I slept in the back. My dad put me down. Test. Thought I was going to be first. Got here early. Took into account the elevator transit time. Yeah. At least I had time to write my speech this year in the elevator. It was more like guidelines.
I said that on the way up.
You did? Did you look for the panic phone? You know, this is out of order, but I want to talk to the air products guy, because in the future, I think there's going to be a need for like a CO2 facility, because shipping is becoming, there's all these regulations coming out, it's making our life miserable. And first we had to capture sulfur, and now we have to, eventually we're going to have to capture CO2 maybe in the next 3 years or so. And so it could be something there where we could capture CO2, and you said you're a gas company, you can sell it for us, because we don't want it. But other people want it. Beverage companies or hospitals, not sure. Anyways, a lot of new faces. Vanessa, do you have your notepad up?
Yes, sir. Always when you
You're
speak.
an excellent note taker last year. So for those of you who don't know about us, we operate between Mexico and Port Manatee. We have 3 ships, company owned, debt-free company. My dad started the company 45 years ago. He's here somewhere. He might be sleeping. He's sleeping? No, there he is. Based out of Atlanta. The company, you know, we founded it, like Carlos said, out of a need to move our produce from Mexico. We looked at a map and saw where our packing house was and didn't want to truck it anymore, and so, well, maybe we can just try shipping. So we chartered a ship, and then we ended up buying a ship, and then another ship, and another ship, and that's where we are now. Over the last year, we've had about 120 calls here at Port Manatee, and it's about 70,000 container moves this last year. And we've and most shipping companies are more like a back office, just rent a ship, you know, hire a stevedore, hire this, you know, and just have office people. But we're integrated all the way. We operate our own terminals in Mexico, and here this year we've been able to hire on people and invest in equipment, and so now we operate our own terminal here, stevedoring and warehouse operations. So we have about 100 people, you know, directly working for us here, and we've added 22 trucks, like 24 bomb carts, 8 reach stackers. We have about 100 chassis. So there's a lot of equipment that goes into supporting the operation here. And we also have indirect, you know, indirect employees like our truckers. We hire all local truckers. They pretty much work exclusively for us. And small guys, 1, 2 trucks, 4 trucks. They go all around the state. And last year we spoke about the rail project a little bit, and that's really going to be the key to growth going forward. Right now we've been adding on new customers, and we grew, you know, our volume's been growing a lot the last years, and last year it grew too. This year, consumer spending is down, so our perishable part of the business is fine. Everybody has to eat. Juice is fine. Consumer products are down. And we've added new customers that basically help level off that dip. But the real growth going forward is the rail project, and we have a framework for that now, and we're looking at a start date. You know, July is what we're looking at. So that's going to require a lot of investment on our part. We have to buy another 1,200 containers. And these are specialty containers. They're not the typical 40-foot containers. These are 53-foot special containers, which is very unique for shipping lines, because they don't operate 53-foot containers. But that makes our service unique between Mexico and here. And a whole bunch more chassis. And also on the port side, it's going to require, you know, continued investment in infrastructure, intermodal rail yard, extra berth space, more laydown area for the containers, new elevator. So it's an ongoing process to keep up with the growth, and that's going to be a good partnership between us, Regional Rail, and raise your hand, Regional Rail, and CSX, and it's going to really open up the Northeast and to Mexico in a way that isn't possible now. Everything now is going by intermodal train or truck or vessel, but it takes too long. And if you had to draw a straight line from Mexico up to the Northeast, this is the most efficient path, right through here. And so we really we see this area as future port of entry for Mexican products for the whole East Coast. And let's see what else. I want to thank Carlos Bucaris for his hard work and support. He's had 2 jobs ever since his commercial guy left, so he's like a great deal. He's like a 2-for-1 for the county. And my grandma always used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. And Carlos, he has a will and he finds a way. So he's important to the success of the business and all our projects. So in a nutshell, I'd say that's what's going on. State of the Union. Any questions?
Airport.
Well, James, do you have a question?
Sure. One of them, I believe I know the answer to, but I just wanted to put us all on the same page. Was there, last time you highlighted some of just how big a deal it was getting cooperation from CSX. So where are you on that? And
well, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
To get their attention took years. And it took basically us just getting fed up and being like, here, take it or leave it, or, whatever, this is ridiculous. And so then they really paid attention to it. Since then, they've changed CEOs. They have a new CEO. But he's willing to work with us, even maybe more than the last guy. And so the project leader that they have in charge of it is basically has fire under him they lit a fire under him to get it done, because CSX really doesn't have a good connection with Mexico. Their connection, would exist like around Birmingham or something, where they would connect with another railroad. And so by connecting here, they get a whole bunch more rail miles, because Birmingham to the Northeast versus Port Manatee to the Northeast. This is a better partnership for them, and they know that the transit time, the efficiencies, everything is better. So they're 100% committed to working with us and basically using this as their connection to Mexico. Because right now to connect to Mexico, they have to go through 4 or 5 railroads. So they look at us and say, well, we can go through 4 or 5 railroads, or we can go through World Direct Shipping. Just have one partner and through Port Manatee. And we've really pushed Port Manatee. They didn't want Port Manatee, everything they wanted Tampa, because that's where their terminal is.
Right.
So that's been a project, and we now have a framework to make it work. So we're getting ready to pull the trigger on the new containers, and we'll see this time next year how we're sitting. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a huge boost to volume and jobs and everything in the area.
And then I think Port Authority member Bob might ask my other question, so I'll wait till the end.
Amanda's got her card.
Oh, I looked over there. You didn't raise your hand.
I did.
Oh, I'd like to wait to the last second, short.
All right. Hold on a second. You're at the Port Authority.
So I just have a question about right now. Your primary market is Georgia. Is that correct? Are you only shipping to Georgia at this point?
I'd say the primary market for the shipping line, when we started the shipping line, the primary market you could say was Georgia, because we started it with 7 containers of produce or something.
Right.
And now the primary market's Florida, because
Okay.
where the produce was 80% of the business, now the produce is 20% of the business, or maybe less, because a lot of people have decided, well, this is a good idea. Let's do this from Mexico, and so now Florida's become the main market. As far as products go, we're talking about Samsung, Whirlpool, GE, LG, as far as white goods go, and then all the perishable goods, juice. You know, if you go to get some crappy orange juice at the grocery store, it's all riding on not Tropicana, but whatever the Coke, orange juice from Mexico. It's all coming on our ships. Sugar, air conditioning units, Linux, the stuff in your house. It's pretty much anything that's going to be built in Mexico that comes here. This is the way to get here.
So to what extent will you be able to expand once you have this rail connection, volume-wise?
If you look at the market here and then you look at the market in Northeast is about double the volume of what Florida is.
Wow.
Just in that general Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey area. So we'll get to a point where we don't have space. Our ships, we've had to modify them to accept these 53-foot containers, and we can only stow them on deck. So we'll get to the point where we don't have space on deck, and we'll have to add more vessels and more port calls, and that'll increase frequency, and then maybe bring in auto parts, because auto parts need high frequency. So there's a never-ending stream of stuff that'll come from Mexico.
Yeah, exciting opportunities.
As China, people don't like China anymore. All that stuff is going to go to Mexico eventually.
I hope so.
Step by step. There's less and less stuff going to be from Asia.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to butt in. I'm sure that you're going to mention the airport, and I think most of us have heard about it, and we're very excited to find out more from you. You probably know that Carlos has, I think, communicated with all of us regarding it, I believe. But he did have a conversation with me a couple of weeks ago, and I got very excited because I remembered you from last year, I think it was.
Right.
And I remember when, you first came here to the port. And so it's very exciting to look at this, and I want to hear what you have to say about it, but I have looked into it a little bit. So, there might be some really good things.
Yeah.
So.
Airport stuff. Right before the airport stuff, just one more thing about when the rail goes up with our containers, they've got to come back down, and they're going to come back down loaded. So that's another source of development for the area from the Northeast. Products that come down here, Procter & Gamble, beer. There's a lot of stuff that comes to Florida, a lot. And that's also why it's a good match for CSX, because going north out of here, there's nothing. Florida doesn't, we produce the Saturn V rocket here for LG or what is it, the liquid, the stuff over there. But we don't produce a bunch of consumer goods that we're sending out. So Mexican stuff will go up, and they're, because right now CSX is sending empty up and then loaded back. So it's a perfect combination for them. So the loads will come back, and you'll see companies that want DCs here because their cargo's coming here. They'll want to distribute from here. The airport, we've assembled, we've assembled a lot of property there across the street. That it's been difficult. It's from some from the readers, Mr. Clark is right there, and some from what'd you say? Yeah. So Clark donated his land, and then and he's been like project manager over there every day. People are like, does Clark work for you guys? No, he just he just likes hanging out over there and telling people what to do. And so then we also have some land from Carlos Broof that Carlos Broof owned, and together we made assembled a piece of land over there that could that could support the expansion of the runway. Whereas before, there's no chance. The runway there is like grandfathered. You know, it was put in. Clark put it in with a tractor, or maybe not even a tractor, bare hands, and it doesn't comply with any current regulations of anything. So to make a runway long enough to be, you know, viable commercially and also comply with the regulations takes a lot of land. There's a lot of space around it that, you know, but the land is there and can be used for that. It's just a matter of getting together and discussing the feasibility for that. Airports are kind of like ports or public roads. They're good for the overall community. It's like more like a public service. You know, most of the airports are just like ports. They're funded 50% to 75% by, you know, between DOT and federal money. So it's very difficult for us as a private, you know, we love airplanes, so that's a big motivator. But it you know, putting a pen to it, you know, it's difficult to compete with publicly funded airports that really don't have to pay. They don't have to pay tax. They don't have to pay. They don't have to pay for improvements. They get a yearly you know, spending allowance from the government to fix stuff. So it's an interesting. It's great to have an airport there because Sarasota doesn't want all the traffic it has. It has too much traffic. The little planes there are blocking the growth. They can't get the big planes in because they have too many little planes. You know, this airport really should be a reliever airport for the area, and the FAA should support that. And there's certain criteria that the FAA has that we qualify for, even as a privately owned airport. And the only criteria that we don't qualify for is the 30-mile. You have to be 30 miles away from another airport, and that's a new criteria because they have airports designated as a reliever airport all scattered around here. All those little airports up on the north part of Tampa Bay, reliever airports, and they're 3 miles from each other. But to put a new one in, they say, oh, sorry, you know, you're within 30 miles. But for this area, for sure it should be a reliever airport and supported with federal money. But that's something that we'll have to work on, and then that also takes time. But in the meantime, there may be an interim solution that could make the runway maybe not everything it could be, but something that could support more traffic and development than what it can support now, you know. And we could get together and talk about that. It's going to take a little bit of work also with the county lands that are adjacent to the property. Height restrictions on those lands to make sure that the trees don't grow up into the approach path. So the framework is there. We just need to talk about it and figure out how to make it happen so that it's sustainable and safe for everybody. And also, you know, can handle traffic, enough traffic. There's space enough there to have a 6,000-foot runway if we want it, which is enough space to bring in any kind of business jet.
I've been dying to hear you say all that. You know, ideally, you're right about the Sarasota Manatee Airport. There's no doubt, or the Sarasota Bradenton Airport. It does need a reliever airport, and it's going to need it in the future even more so than what it does today, obviously. So ideally, you're right. I know about the funding. It is going to be mainly DOT and feds. And so we really, you know, I have made a few phone calls. I'd love to talk to you after this meeting for a few minutes, but I do believe that there's someone that is eager to have a conversation who might be able to help with all of the endeavors that it's going to take to get this done. You know, we need somebody familiar with the airport authority in Sarasota Bradenton Airport and people that are familiar, you know, that has connections with DOT and the feds and so forth. And now just might be a great time
Yeah.
to look at that endeavor. So if we could talk after the meeting, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, the cost investment is, if there's one thing we can do better than a public entity, it's do stuff right, do it fast, and do it very cost effectively. We have all the
That's
equipment
very
for the
true.
farm, and we can use, we don't need much more equipment to just do it ourselves, put in a runway ourselves. But it still requires fill, requires, planning and safety areas and protection zones and stuff that we have to talk about, especially with the county being adjacent to it.
Great. Excited. Thank you.
Anyone else? No. One question. The 400 plus acres, was that predominantly purchased for and planned to be utilized for the airport, or do you have other uses for that land as you move forward?
I think we could call like airport step one.
Okay.
It's if it was a public, thing, then it would have been for the air. You would have put a strip right down the middle of it. It'd be 8,000 feet long, and that would be the use of the land. But from our point of view, we can take the runway, push it north, have a 6,000 foot runway, and have most of the property utilized for other things. I mentioned a lot of the customers I mentioned, including Colgate, just as an example. We ship to Georgia from here, Georgia to their DC in Georgia, and in Atlanta, they reload stuff and send it back down to Florida, because the original way to get stuff to Florida is through DCs in Atlanta, or DCs along the way, from Mexico. So we send it up to Atlanta, they send it back down to they mix it with stuff and send it back down to Florida. It makes no sense. Eventually they need a DC here, and it's not just them. There's other customers we send to Jacksonville, like GE. They send it right back here because there's a lot of their customers in the Tampa area. So there's a lot of companies that are going to need DCs in the area. And to access this area is very difficult. We drive an hour to get here. Every time we come down all the time. We drive an hour from the airport, an hour back. People don't want to do that. So we have if we have a way to get here, it's going to open up, opportunities for all these companies, all our customers, basically. And we can be very strategic about who we put here, because we want to support, basically what the customers from the port. So once they have a way to access the area, then it should be, much easier for them to invest in the area.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Was that it? I appreciate it.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
All right. Now we're on consent. This consent A through H. Did anyone want anything pulled from consent or discussion on anything on consent? Seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. Did anyone have any comments on any of the consent agenda items today? Seeing none, I will close public comment, and if there are no questions, comments from the board, we will take a vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Sir, do you need a motion? Sir, do you need a motion? Sir, do you need a motion before you cast a vote?
Oh, yeah, good call. So I'll make a motion to approve consent.
I move to approve consent.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Van Osbridge, second by Commissioner Satcher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move to number 4, Director Bukaris, master plan approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. One of the most important functions that ports do regularly is to look out into the future. And so we just completed our master plan looking out, into that future that World Direct Shipping has talked about, that Air Products has talked about. Where are we going? Well, we're going essentially to supersize the port, to make it not just a regional impact, maybe even a national impact, as you're hearing, with rail all the way essentially to the distribution centers in the Northeast, having that, all East Coast impact, and even the future to other ports in the other countries in the South. So I'm going to have Dan Fitzpatrick, our Director of Planning, to provide you with a kind of summary of what the master planners have come up with and what we have decided that port should be looking at. This was already approved, now we have the final. We had a draft. And so we'll be looking for your approval of the master plan with this agenda item. Yeah, ready? Please. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. Dan Fitzpatrick, Director of Planning and Project Development for Seaport Manatee. So, started this process back in November of 2021 with the assistance of Florida Department of Transportation. Planning is so important to make sure that you're on the right track, that Florida Department of Transportation actually initiated the process for the port, and were proactive and got us started with providing 50% of the funding for this. And it helps from a statewide perspective to know where all the seaports are headed, the 14 deepwater seaports. So big thank you to Amanda Tyner, who's representing FDOT today from District 1. For joining us. Have a lot of other important faces in the room and partners that helped on this process over the last year. So thank you. Received feedback from over 150 different entities. Even as recently as January, we were still making some minor tweaks to this, and now we're done. It's printed. And hopefully we can accept it today. Just for everyone's reference, we didn't print a whole bunch of these. We printed 12. They weigh about 8 pounds, believe it or not. If you want to come up and pick it up, we hand delivered them downtown. I think the box weighed about 100 pounds when we were carrying it into the county. So just for reference, we do have 2 copies up here if you'd like to look at a printed copy. So just maybe 2 more points for this slide. A couple people in this room and a couple of the Port Authority board members will remember back in October, John Corley from Atkins joined us and presented a much lengthier slide deck, and I've trimmed this slide deck down just to run through it. I kept all the pretty pictures. And the economics were done by Martin and Associates, and Martin and Associates have done tens of thousands of economic impact studies over the last 40 years. And so we really had a great team working on this and a lot of great support. So thank you. And now moving on to why do we do this plan? And it's all about economic impact, and that's the last item on this agenda list, and that's what we started with, economic impact, and we ended with it. Seaport Manatee creates $5.1 billion in economic impact for the United States economy, and create 4,000 direct jobs, 37,000 direct and indirect jobs, and that's fiscal year 2021. So we wanted to have a baseline of what we're starting with, and after we get done this plan, what's going to be the economic impact from all of these projects that are included in the plan. And why we do a plan is because the port collects revenues, dockage, wharfage, leases, and then it's our responsibility to reinvest those dollars and make sure that we make those dollars go as far as possible so that we get the biggest bang for the buck, and that when we reinvest those dollars, that we create multi-generational economic benefits for not only the region but also the country. So here's the process, and it went pretty quick. You might have been involved in one or more of these steps. We started with the commercial and facility assessment back in November and December. Our consultant Atkins and Martin Associates reached out to our primary tenants, and they collected information about how many jobs. They looked at growth, and then we put all of that information along with some global trends into a model, and we took a look at capacity needs and for the next 20 years. Then we had a strategic plan. We started strategic planning after we had a exercise with our stakeholders. And then we moved into infrastructure planning, which went really, really quick. We finished with economic impact, and we published our new economic impact study in August. And a copy of that news release is still posted on our website if you want to check out those numbers. And then the final report, we presented to the board a draft in October, and it was substantially complete by December. And stakeholder involvement was a key theme. We wanted to make sure we got this right the first time. We wanted to make sure that it was flexible and met all the needs. I think I only had to say no once throughout the entire process, so it was really easy to incorporate most of the feedback that we got. And in addition to the 3 stakeholder meetings and the board meeting, we also posted a copy of the draft plan on the website from approximately October 14th to, I think, December 12th. So almost 2 months of public comment period that it was on the website. So I'm going to quickly go through this. When we're taking a look at capacity needs, we took a look at our existing capacity, and we're taking a look for the choke point. Where along from unloading or loading a ship to getting it off the port is the weakest link. And that way we could determine what our capacity is now and the difference between, and I've got some charts to better explain this. What's the weakest link in the getting it on or off the port, and that determines your overall capacity. So on this illustration, it was storage for containers, storage for break bulk, apron storage for dry bulk, and vessel berthing facilities for liquid bulk, and storage also for liquid bulk. So that's what we knew we had to focus on. And so in these illustrations, we see that the orange line is the projected growth, the capacity that we need to have, and then the blue line, horizontal line, is what our capacity restriction was. So we know we need to add enough capacity between that blue horizontal line and the orange line to get to where we need to be at a certain date in the future. So once we realized how much capacity we needed, how much warehouse space we needed, how much laydown space we needed, how much berthing facilities we needed, we got all of our stakeholders together, actually in this room, and I'm glad we took some pictures. Recognize a few faces there, I hope. And we broke the groups into 4 groups, and we asked them to lay out the port, and they all came up with different layouts, but we were able to find some commonalities. They wanted us to expand berth capacity, storage capacity, provide potential for on-site bulk storage, and I'm not going to hit on all these in depth, but as an example, for bulk juice storage, some juice ships take between 9, 12, 13 days to unload, and during that time period, you're holding up a berth and preventing that berth from being used for other activities. So if we can decrease the time that a ship is on berth, we can free it up for other opportunities. Probably the biggest takeaway from our stakeholders was that they wanted us to deconflict the operations as much as possible. Move containers to the container side of the port, have break bulk activities in the middle of the port, and have all the bulk activity on the north side of the port as much as possible. When you're doing similar activities in similar areas, you have less conflicts. Avoid rebuilding what we already have, provide flexible responsiveness to market demands, and seek opportunities to reduce unnecessary gate moves. And as we'll see in the 20-year vision, we have what we have today in terms of a footprint all the way on the left, and then the improvements shown in the orange, what we're recommending in the 20-year plan, and then the future layout, and that's where we'll be in 20 years after we build everything in the start everything in the 20-year plan. And here are 26 unique projects that we identified. And that slide, I think 4 ago, with all the writing on it said flexibility. Some of these are placeholders on here. We don't expect that all of these things will go exactly where they're shown, but at least we know that we need to be planning for them. They're really important for the port based on stakeholder feedback. So they might go here, but we're flexible to the needs of our customers. So I'm just going to point out a couple of the big projects. Number 2 on the map. Let's see if I can do this. It's all the way on the top left. That's our berth 4 extension project. We want to extend berth 4 by 600 feet north. That'll give us back the full utilization of berth 4 and 5 and give us enough capacity to take other berths out of service for rehabilitation. And after we finish berth 4 and get back that additional capacity that we don't have right now, we'll go back and straighten out the corner of berth 10 and 11. Berth 10 will be extended about 412 feet to the west, and berth 11 will meet it at a new angle, and that'll give us a linear berth between 11, 12, and 14, which are shown to the west of the container yard. And then on the land side, we heard about a rail facility today, and CSX came to the port in January of last year, and they've came to the port multiple times over the last year, and we worked really closely to get a layout that works for them by July of 2022. So this is probably the fastest planned rail facility in over a century in the United States of America. And we did it, and then we got it together, and we applied for a federal CRISI grant on December 1st. And we have some really good momentum going, and we're getting updates regularly on that project. And then another couple features is adding warehouse space, adding more room for bulk cargo storage, and then container yard expansion. And this will provide us enough capacity to 2041. So we get to build a lot of stuff and start a lot of designs over the next 20 years. And as one of the conclusions is we have all these projects are reasonable and achievable, which is a lot different than some of the seaport plans that you see. And if we had all these facilities today, I'm sure our stakeholders and tenants would agree they'd be used immediately if we had them today. So this isn't a build it and they will come. So three great things about this vision. So we took a look at all of these projects, these 26 projects, and how they would help the port operationally or to improve efficiencies. And we would also took a look at how much capacity they would add to make sure that we were meeting that needed capacity that over the time period shown in those graphs. And we came up with a list of 10 projects that would focus on at 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And we might not do them all in order, again, because we're going to be flexible and responsive to customer needs. We took a look at how much additional capacity we would have at the end of each period, and quite a bit of added additional capacity. And then we get back to economic impacts. We started with economic impacts, and we'll end with economic impacts. Fiscal year 2021, and let's look down at that bottom number just as an example. $200 million a year in state and local taxes that Port Manatee in fiscal year 2021 is given back to the United States economy. So just in 1 year, $200 million. And then we took a look at, if we did all these projects, and we did this for every single project, how much additional economic impact would that have? And this is going to be really handy when I'm applying for grants over the next 5 years. So I'm glad we did this now. So just how to read this for 1 year, and let's look at the first column. It says 22 million at the bottom. So if we do all of the planned improvements for the container yard that we have for the next 5 years, we'll add an additional $22 million of economic impacts a year just for those improvements. So FDOT knows this because they've been investing in seaports for the last 30 years, is that when you invest $1 state money in seaports, you get 7 back, a minimum of 7 back. So we know that we're a great investment, not only for Florida, but for the United States economy. We also took a look at construction, short-term impacts for each project. And then conclusions. We have a really bright future at Seaport Manatee. Every single conversation we had 2 presentations today just from 2 of our primary stakeholders, and they're seeing bright future here at the port. This plan provides the capacity that we need. It's reasonable and achievable. We have opportunities to unlock opportunities, new service lines. We have opportunities to diversify, to have different lines of business coming to the port that we currently don't have now, and we know based on demand from our economic study that we could easily tap into those new service lines. And finally, I started with economic impact, we'll end with economic impact. We're going to continue to be an economic driver for Manatee County, Southwest Florida, and the rest of the United States. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Anyone have any questions?
No questions, just comment.
Okay.
This packet y'all put together is first class. Appreciate you getting this put together. I can put it on my back, lift weights, do some squats. But no, it's absolutely wonderful. I recognize that the container tonnage has increased since 2017, 31.8%. And I think that's absolutely astonishing and amazing. And I know with with Carlos and leadership and the leadership team, we're going to continually expand, and it's exciting times for Manatee County and what you all have brought to the table. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good job.
I see no one else, but thank you very much. We've talked about this plan a number of times up here at the port, and it's very exciting to watch us continue to grow and expand and make sure we're giving to our clients, our port clients, what they need to continue to grow themselves. It's, as I've said a couple times today, it's a great mutual relationship we're building up here at the port, and thank you for your hard work on this. And with that, we do need a motion to approve this. If anyone has their blue sheet open.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the Seaport Manatee Master Plan update and direct staff to ensure that the plan is fully incorporated into state and local plans and other required documents.
Chairman Cruz, who made that motion, please?
Commissioner Baugh made the motion, and Commissioner Satcher seconded it.
Bearden, did you want to ask public comment?
Oh, you second it? Sorry, Commissioner Bearden seconded it. We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone have any comments? Yes, sir.
Milan Mora with the Corps of Engineers.
Do we have a microphone? We're gonna need it just for the minutes.
Thank you. Milan Mora with the Corps of Engineers. Great master plan. Appreciate that the port is doing that. Question from the federal perspective: is the port going to be expanding the depth of the channel, knowing all this traffic that is coming? And I saw great new berthing areas past the federal channel. So I think heard the gentlemen were World Direct Shipping. That direct connection with Mexico, it's a very important one. And at some point, is that question of does that harbor is sufficient enough to expand, to continue deeper?
Great question.
Well, thank you, it is, but I'm not the expert at it. It's, it's Mr. Sanford who's the expert, who used to run essentially the Army Corps' everything for many, many years. And so, we have two issues. One, of course, is always draft. Ports want to be deeper, but it takes a lot of funding, and we have an air draft issue also with the bridge. We're on the other side of the bridge that restricts that capacity. But I think that, Dave, you want to come up and answer the question from your former employer?
We have a ship channel that is common for Tampa Bay, and the authorized depth for that ship channel is 43 feet. We're currently at an authorized depth of 40 feet, plus typically an additional foot for over depth when we have a maintenance event. We had looked at feasibility of deepening the channel 5 years ago. And it appeared during the recon study that it was certainly feasible to go down to match the 43-foot draft of the ship channel. I would imagine that in the foreseeable future, and we actually talked about this during the master plan, but it primarily dealt with land-based assets. But it's not hard to imagine that in the foreseeable future, as World Direct Shipping, for example, every time they buy a new ship, it's bigger. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that we would be looking certainly to match the 43-foot for the ship channel. And I know that there are plans afoot to look at deepening the ship channel as well. So we would address that when we see those plans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Were there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will close public comments. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Baugh, seconded by Commissioner Bearden. If there are no further comments from the Port Authority, we will vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. Madam Clerk, it is approved unanimously. Director, we will move on to number 5, amendment number 3 to the project cooperation agreement.
Well, we have been working, actually, Dave and the other staff have been working hard on this for many, many years. So I'm going to have Dave introduce this item and explain to you what happened, where we are, and where we're going. It's really quite a coup for the port and the staff and the efforts in our cooperation with the Army Corps, with Dave's expertise. So I want to have Dave Sanford come up and really and really explain and credit where credit's due, right? So.
Well, this is credit due to the Jacksonville District. They have been an exceptional partner. I have over many, many years worked with all of the core civil works districts, and the Jacksonville District can hold its head high. They're at the top of that list. So having said that, they really went to bat for us. We have been trying to get some projects completed to get the book closed on our South Channel, for example, to get the book closed on some real estate issues, to get the book closed on our disposal facility. And over many, many years, it just kept plodding along. And the district came in and they came up with a plan to abbreviate that and allowed us to be able to complete a plan to get federal reimbursement for the monies that the port had spent deepening the ship channel. Also, we contributed lands, easements, rights-of-way, etc. for disposal facilities. So this really brings it all down to where the district was able to come up with a plan to accelerate, cut through all the red tape, and bring this to a conclusion. So we couldn't be more grateful to the district for having accomplished that. It's really their good work that brings us to today.
Did you have anything else?
No.
No.
No,
Commissioners,
thank you.
any questions, comments regarding item number 5? No? All right. I will open this up to public comment. Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we are looking for the recommended motion is to approve and authorize the chairman to execute amendment number 3 to the project cooperation agreement between the Department of the Army and the Manatee County Port Authority for construction of the Manatee Harbor, Florida Navigation Project.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, we have a motion by Commissioner Boss, seconded by Commissioner Ballard. If there's no further comments from the board or from the director, we will vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. Madam Clerk, it is approved unanimously.
After the meeting, we're going to have a signing ceremony, so you need you all to stay around after the end so we can do that.
Are we going to use multiple pens so we can hand them out?
Multiple pens, memorial pens, we
One
have
per
special
letter?
ones
All right,
for that.
We have
perfect.
to call you President Cruz if we
There you go.
Senator Cruz.
All right, well, we didn't have any public comments at the beginning of the meeting. I'll reopen it up if anyone had any last public comments. Seeing none, we will go to the executive director comments.
Thank you, Mr.
Sir.
Chairman, Commissioners. We have some good news, as you've already heard, and we have a few more tidbits to share about what's going on at the port. Here we go. We welcomed a new tenant last month. It's been quite a bit in the process. A new company from Chile has purchased 75% of an existing company here at the port, further expanding the reach globally. This company is called Agunsa. The port, I have known them for 30 years. They're a great company. They will add tremendously to the opportunities and the growth of the port. We're going to have them up here next time we meet here to explain what they do. They are publicly traded and really a family-owned, almost like some of these other companies we have here. And so they will really, really help us reach even further and grow the port exponentially. As you heard earlier from Dan, expansion. And we have to do this profitably. We want more business, but we can't do it without the additional yard acreage, without the additional expansion of the container yard. We'll be continuing to expand the area, as you see here, until we meet that maximum capacity. Because really, as Dan mentioned, the trend line for containers is that we already have a record container, which we'll see volume, and it's going to grow. Dan, send that to Washington to do some, some lobbying, if you would, talking about what's going on here, briefing congressional staff members. Have any comments on that, Dan? No, you're good? Okay. Tremendous results economically. Q1, Q2. Because again, all we talk about with our tenants and all these projects are not based upon additional tax revenue. They're just based on whatever we can profitably invest as a port authority without anybody's other money from the county or other parts of government. So tremendous growth here. 39% over last year at the same time. So we're building our reserves, we're building our revenues, and that helps us reinvest in the port. So here are some of the, as you heard earlier, trade surge. We just, huge trend line, tremendous growth. And that's, again, with existing facilities. We just expanded, so we'll be able to handle even additional containers. And this is an interesting one that Commissioner Ball will remember when we were up in Tampa, when they were trying to take us over. Remember, so Tampa's rather probably here, if you look, from, coming from 2014 to 2022, with a quarter of the investment that other ports made, a quarter of the investment, we're handling as many containers as the Tampa port. A quarter. A quarter of the land, a quarter of the investment. So, as Dan said, bang for the buck, the bang is here, and we're doing it extremely efficiently. We're breaking records in containers handled per acre. So that is really going extremely well, surprisingly well. That will probably be even higher at the end of this fiscal year. So tremendous growth. Thank you for that. So we have a little updated video for you to take a look at.
Love that last picture.
I want to thank our communications team for putting this together. They did a great job here. Tonight, we have a State of the Port with the Propeller Club and the Navy League to kind of update them what's going on. But the first preview was all yours. So, well, in fact, it's up here. This is this evening. So again, thank you. And those are my remarks. Later in a second, Dave is going to be introducing the Army Corps, people here. Okay. Mr. Chairman,
You good?
back to you, please.
All right, we will move on to commissioner comments, either independent comments or any comments for the director based upon his comments.
No comments, Chair.
No comments.
I got two. Well, Carlos brought it up, and the commissioners that are here now were not here for the meeting that Carlos was referring to in Tampa. And it was a very difficult meeting, and not a meeting that Port Manatee had anything to do with scheduling. We were literally told to be there. The Port Authority from Port Manatee, I'm sorry, I keep saying Port Manatee, it's habit, and also Tampa Port. And basically, the Secretary of DOT was there, and a couple of other people, and it was an interesting meeting because Port Manatee, we just sat there and we didn't say anything. I mean, we knew better. It was like, but another port got chastised because they had been trying to come in and take customers from Port Manatee. And we were all told, and the secretary was absolutely correct, there's enough business for everybody in all the ports in the state of Florida, and it didn't behoove the state to take any partners from one port, just take them to another port. And it really, and the reason, I'll go ahead and say this, the reason it came up was because all of a sudden, and Dave, you're sitting there and you remember this, you know, they wanted to buy and take over Port Manatee. The port did in Tampa. And we were like, no, it's not for sale. That's not even a question. And so we were very, some of us were insulted by that, you know, and look at it today. So I think, you know, I just got to say, I remember those days. I can remember being here at the port when sometimes we might get one ship in a day. And we were really, I mean, we had some people that were just going out there and Malcolm knows, I mean, traveling all the time, trying to bring business into the port. So it's really come a long way, and the Port Authority is very proud of all the staff and the executive director and everybody, because it takes the whole team to be successful. And so today really is a very historic day for Port Manatee, with the Army Corps being here for the reason that they are. And it's amazing at the years that you can look at and how much can change in a very short amount of time. So congratulations to all of you. You all have done quite a job. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ron, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Ballard, you weren't here. Did you have any comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, we have no comments. Thank you very much for hosting us once again. This is always informative. Before I close out, you have the signing ceremony as part of the actual agenda. So before we close the meeting, is there anything more we need to do relative to signing meeting or introductions?
The introductions, I'm going to have Dave Manford introduce the Army Corps.
It's really a great pleasure for me personally to have the Corps representatives here today. I'd like to first introduce the district commander, Colonel Booth, and our old friend Milan Mora, who is, I think, chief of the Water Resources branch. He gets promoted so fast I can't keep up with his titles. And Milan, would you please introduce staff that you have with you today?
Sure. So, starting with my boss, Deputy Tim Murphy, Mr. Javi Gonzalez. He's the new Deputy District Engineer for Central Project Management.
Great.
And you know this guy. You know this guy, Mr. Brian Merrill?
Yes.
You're project manager, you're one door to the Corps.
Brian's doing a great job for us. We really appreciate his work. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Colonel Booth, if you'd step to the table, we'll place the flags. Colonel Booth is signing on behalf of the Assistant Secretary of Army for Civil Works.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Connor.
Just as we're stepping up, I'm on. Thanks for having us here today. We really appreciate the partnership with Seaport Manatee. And just on behalf of the Corps Engineers, it's absolutely our pleasure to continue this partnership, operation and maintenance dredging that we've got ongoing, and certainly happy to hear how, when we get that done, that material be able to be reutilized down the line at Washington Park. Just great day, and I know this has taken a lot of effort, and so I just want to acknowledge the comment you said about the Army Corps of Engineers and cutting red tape to get to this signing. I think that comment generally has never been said about the Army Corps of Engineers, cutting bureaucracy or cutting up red tape, so I appreciate the comment today, sir.
I'm getting out of the picture.
Where do you want us, Kyle? We're supposed to go away?
Yeah, we're gonna move the chair.
I think it's his day, his moment.
And I expect one of the pens.
Is it congressman or senator?
Governor.
Governor.
I'll just
For the sake of his-
Go give me some coffee.
Governor Price.
Dun. No, that's the next.
Sunshine, please make sure I get one of those pictures.
I will.
Drawing eye patch.
I love it.
It will appear in the thread.
We all need it.
What's gonna be in the thread? Eye patch. Drawn on.
Cigar.
Yeah, cigar. Send you guys, you know,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh, geez, yes.
There's a picture there, some article about it. Hold on, I was like, I took a screenshot, I blew up a screenshot of something like, highly qualified and available.
He did his job recently.
That's definitely county business.
Yeah.
So I was like, you see that?
Yes.
Oh, this made me laugh. Oh, shoot, it went away.
You and Carol should collaborate.
I looked into
Members to come down for a group picture. If we could get the board members to come down, on either side of the table. Get in there.
I'm doing it right now.
Ring your bell.
All right. If there are no further comments from the board, seeing none, all right.
I have one.
We,
Just kidding.
Commissioner Baugh, now you have to come up with something.
Great day, great meeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Commissioner. We are adjourned.
I think we should get that for the board, Diane.